Welcome to episode 63 of the Mental Dietitian Podcast. I'm your host, Ahren Lynch-potter, and welcome back to another episode. So, this one's a episode that is about a subject that I've been fascinated about for such a long time. It's the idea that life happens for you and doesn't happen to you. And the very first time I heard it was at a speech that Jim Carrey did for a graduating group of students from university. And he said, life happens for you, it doesn't happen to you. You can either choose love or fear to make decisions. And when we choose love, it's choosing to see the world through the lens of that life happens for you. So just very briefly, I mean, for example, right now, life is happening for me. And what do I mean by that? What is something that's happening in my life lately, which is something that I can reflect on this? And one of the things is I've got really bad bursitis in both my elbows right now. In fact, if you're watching the video, you can probably see that I can grab literally a baseball-sized thing on the back of my left elbow. See? Look at that. If you are watching on YouTube, you will see that I have bursitis on my elbow really bad, like crazy. Look at that. Nuts. And I could either choose to be super frustrated because it's stopping me from lifting weights. I can't train my upper body at all. I cannot go to jujitsu, and I love training jujitsu, that's the perspective of life happening to you. Oh, this happened to me, which is very easy to get fearful, negative, just terrible. Just sucks. Or I can choose to view it through the lens of it's happening for a reason. There's a lesson in this. There's something that whatever that is going on right now, my body, the universe, God, whatever you believe in, is communicating something to me. And for me, it could just be to slow down. Hey, man, slow down. Like, just slow down, calm down. You don't need to run a million miles an hour and train so much. Maybe that's what it is. But to choose to live your life through the lens of life happens for me, not to me, is it's I can't even begin to put it into words. I'm going to try. I mean, that's what this podcast is about. But you see lessons in everything. There's lessons in every single thing. There's lessons in why you got fired from that job. There's lessons in things that occur in your day-to-day life. Maybe you get a speeding ticket. You're like, oh shit, that's bullshit. It's like, oh, I was running late. Well, maybe you're always running late. Maybe that speeding ticket was an invitation to look at your schedule and be like, you know what, why are you always running late? What is something that you need to change so that you can just drive at a normal speed limit without this fear and anxious kind of energy, and then getting angry at the external world, whether or not it's the police officer or whoever gave you that ticket or whatever, or the speed camera that flashed? That is the perfect example of life happens for you. Another story I can share is that the biggest financial month I've ever made with my job, with my sales career, was when I had really bad ringworm, which is kind of like, it's like a fungal infection a lot of people get from doing jujitsu because of the mats. There's a lot of people sweating. It can be a dirty environment. It's kind of like staph, but not as bad. And I had it on the back of my head really badly. It was really bad. And like, obviously I'd be selfish and horrible to go to the gym with ringworm all over my head. So I took a couple of weeks off. And rather than being like, oh, this is so shit, I can't do the thing that I love to do, I was like, perfect. I can stay an hour later at work, not have any distractions this month, and really see what I can do. And I had the biggest month ever. I made the most amount of money I've ever made in my life. And that is the perfect example of like, if you get hit with these things in life, what can you learn from it? And you can apply it to anything. I have a very good friend whose mother passed away about a year and a half ago, about a year and a half ago now. And the amount of growth that he has gone through in that past year and a half, based on the perspective of life happens for you. What are the lessons here? What are the things that I can gain from this? What new perspectives can I unlock because of this thing that has happened? And how can I choose to see that this has happened for me, not to me? When you live in a paradigm and you look through the lens of that life happens to you, it basically gives all your power away. You have no power at all anymore. You don't really have any, you're basically a ship in the ocean of life, and life just blows you around wherever it wants to blow you. The gusts pick up, you get fired from a job, you lose a relationship. It's like, oh, well, it's happening to me. Rather than being like, this is happening for me. And when you look at it through the lens of for me, it's like maybe there's a lesson to learn. There's always a lesson to learn. Always, always, always. And if you look at life through this lens of life happening for you, you never fall into that victim mentality ever. Because if you think life's happening to you, it's very easy to fall into that victim mentality that most of you guys know of. Number two is if life happens for you, you're coming from a place of abundance, and you're coming from a place of the power is within you. If it's happening for you, it's okay, what can I learn here? It immediately puts your mind in a place of creation versus a place of being closed off, that if it happened to you, for example. So I could talk about this in so many different perspectives, but it really comes down to, are you making decisions based out of love, which is abundance, possibility, expansion? Or are you making decisions based out of fear, which is lack of resources, it's contraction, it's fear, it's retraction, it's thinking small? Because if you make decisions out of fear, or that life happens to you, like I said earlier, it's you're giving all your power away. You no longer have any power over your life, and that's a very hopeless place to be in. So I really encourage you to look at every area of your life, especially the problems. Imagine somebody, let's paint a hypothetical scenario here, right? Somebody's 300 pounds. Somebody's 300 pounds and they're working a job they don't like. Say they're working as a cashier somewhere, and they're very intelligent. They're smart, they did well at school, but somehow over the past 20 years, they've put on almost 150 pounds. They used to be 150 pounds at 18, and now she's in her late 30s, and she's almost 300 pounds. That happened for her. And that's a hard thing to sometimes realize, and it's a hard thing to sit with, is that when she does make that decision, if she ever does, say she does make that decision to really make a change in her life, the amount of zest and the amount of life that she will feel compared to the 20 years of slowly gaining weight, not having the quality of life that she would like to have, and the amount of confidence that that would give her coming from that place that most people will never know. Most people will never know that place, ever. And I can imagine it's a dark place for some people. I can imagine it's a dark place, waking up and feeling powerless and having an addiction to being sedentary, having addiction to unhealthy foods. That's a really hard place to be in. But if you can pull yourself out of that place, you would eventually, if you really did the work on yourself and really looked into why that happened in the first place, you would realize that it happened for you. And that the lessons and the self-confidence that that person would gain from that experience could never be bought. It could never be created from any other way than getting themselves back to a healthy weight, which is more than just weight. It's more than just food. It's a belief system you have about yourself. I've said this before and I'll say it again. If you look at somebody, this is my opinion. This is my opinion. You can tell how much love and abundance somebody has in their life based on how they look physically, how their health is. Is this statement a complete 100% statement? No, there are outliers. There's things that can affect people's weight, for example. But if I see somebody who's 100 pounds overweight, it's not coming from a judgmental place, but there's some belief system that they are living with, which is blocking the flow of love for themselves, it's basically love for themselves. Because if you really, really loved yourself and really valued yourself and really understood how special you actually are and how there's only one of you in the entire world and there will only ever be one of you and you're so unique. And if you really loved yourself from the bottom of your soul, you would never allow yourself to get to that point. That sounds harsh. And I can say the same to me. There's been times where I've put on weight by eating unhealthy things or not exercising the way that I want to. And there's some version of me that is like okay with that, which is okay with poisoning myself with things. It's just like, well, if I truly loved myself and really cared about myself and wanted myself to live an amazing life, why would I do that? Why would I do that to myself? I would respect this body that I'm in because I love it and I care about it and I care about myself, and I would treat myself like I'm somebody that I'm responsible for looking after. It's one of the rules that Jordan Peterson has in his 12 rules for life, is that treat yourself the same way you would treat somebody you were responsible for. And it's just like, wow, most people don't do that. Most people speak to themselves very poorly and treat themselves very poorly on their internal dialogue in some way, shape, or form, which if you continue doing that, again, that's a lesson. It's like that happens for you. Because when you do learn to love yourself, if you can, and if you eventually get there, hopefully you do, you'll know how amazing that feels to be in that place, because maybe for so many years you did speak to yourself poorly. Again, life happening for you. If somebody's in the depths of addiction and they beat it and they get out of that addictive mindset and they figure out what caused the addiction in the first place, whether or not it was the environment growing up, whether or not it was traumatic events, whether or not it was a work addiction and then they just didn't know where to go, whatever it may be, if they can get themselves to a place, they will realize that the addiction had taught them so much, and it happened for them. It happened to teach them something. Everything in your life has happened for a reason. Only if you choose to see it that way. If you choose to see that life has happened to you, you'll grow bitter with age. You'll become very resentful. You become very fear-based. And it's all really a choice. It's a choice. It's a choice that you make in every single split second. Is this happening for me, or is this happening to me? And I challenge you listening to this, next time something really shitty happens, try to look at it through the lens of this is happening for me, not to me. And if you can stay in that place, it might take weeks, it might take months, it might take years to have this realization. If it's something really big, it's very hard to take a step back, especially if it's something that's very painful the loss of a loved one, the end of a relationship, the loss of a job, something that is painful. But I promise you that that is happening for you to show you something. You may not be aligned somewhere. I know people that have left relationships and it's the best thing that ever happened to them. And it's always meant to be. It happened for a reason. The reason might be that they weren't showing up the way that they should have been showing up to keep that person around. That's the lesson. That's the lesson for that person. That's why it happened. That happened for you to show you that you were being complacent. So I challenge you in the next week, before you hear from me again, something will come up. Try to look at it through the lens of this is happening for me. What are the lessons here? What can I learn from this? And I can guarantee that you'll find something, even something tiny, which gives you your power for you to reflect upon your life and for you to make changes in your life. So next time this particular thing may happen, or some version of it that invokes that emotion that caused that happened because of this event, you can approach life differently. You can approach life differently. So love you guys. Hope this one helped. Try to also look up Jim Carrey graduation speech on YouTube. It's probably about 10, 15 years old. It'll blow your mind. Absolutely amazing. It's one of the first things that I saw in self-development. I was about 17, 18, and it just blew me away. And hopefully you can find it and it'll blow you away too. Talk to you next week. Love you guys. Bye.